In this lecture, we shall discuss schedules of the Indian Constitution. We will talk about what is a schedule, what is the need for having a schedule in the Indian Constitution, are schedules part of the Indian Constitution or not, and we shall be discussing schedules 1 to 10, because in total, there are 12 schedules in the Indian Constitution. Originally, there were only 8 schedules in the Indian Constitution. Later on, through various constitutional amendments, 4 more schedules were added to the Indian Constitution. So as of now, we have 12 schedules in Indian Constitution. But in this lecture, we shall be discussing schedules 1 to 10. Why? Schedule 11 and 12, we shall be dealing with in local government. So when we will talk about Panchayati Raj institutions, we will talk about municipalities because Schedule 11 deals with Panchayati Raj, Schedule 12 deals with municipalities. So when we will discuss local government, when we will talk about local government institutions, then we will talk about Schedule 11 and Schedule 12. So in this lecture, we'll talk about Schedule 1 to 10. But first up, what is a schedule? If you recall, when we talked about union and its territory, when we discussed part 1 of the Indian Constitution, then I told you what is a schedule. So to recap, what is a schedule? Schedule is nothing but an explanatory memorandum of an article. If there is an article which requires more explanation, a schedule is added at the end of the Constitution to explain this article. Let's say, for example, there is an article inside the Indian Constitution which requires more elaboration, which requires more details. Instead of adding all these details, all these explanations within the text of the Constitution, what the Constitution makers have done, they have added a schedule at the end of the Constitution to explain this article in detail. Why? This is a cosmetic measure. Why cosmetic measure? Let's say, for example, all the states and union territories shall be mentioned below. That is what Article 1 of the Indian Constitution talks about. That's something that we have discussed. So if Article 1 would have said the names of the states and territories are mentioned below, then this article would mention 29 states and 7 union territories. Then this entire article would look very bulky. Instead of making this article bulky, what the Constitution makers thought, let's add a schedule at the end of the Constitution and explain this Article 1. Maybe the Constitution makers in 1950 thought that lean is in. We have to ensure that articles are not so bulky, articles are not so elaborated. That is why if there is an article which requires more elaboration, which requires more explanation, we add a schedule at the end of the Constitution. So what is a schedule? Schedule is nothing but an explanatory memorandum of an article. If an article requires more explanation, add a schedule at the end of the Constitution. But what is the purpose? The purpose is so that the text of the Constitution does not look so bulky. It is only a cosmetic measure. But are schedules part of the Indian Constitution? Yes. Just like any other article, any other part of the Indian Constitution, schedules are also part of the Indian Constitution. Now let's look at all these schedules one by one, beginning with Schedule 1. So what is Schedule 1? Sometimes in match the following types of questions, these things can be asked. Match the following. What is Schedule 1? What is Schedule 2? What is Schedule 3? What is Schedule 9? And you have these options. Match the following. So what is Schedule 1? Schedule 1 talks about the names of the states and union territories in this country. So Schedule 1 would mention the names of 29 states and 7 union territories. That is Schedule 1 of the Indian Constitution. What is Schedule 2 of the Indian Constitution? Salaries and emoluments. There are salaries, emoluments of various constitutional officers. That is something which is mentioned in the Schedule 2 of the Indian Constitution. For example, the salaries of the president and the governors, speaker, deputy speaker, chairperson and deputy chairperson of Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, judges of the Supreme Courts and the High Courts, Comptroller and Auditor General of India. These are very important constitutional officers and their salaries and emoluments are mentioned in Schedule 2 of the Indian Constitution. Now let's look at Schedule 3 of the Indian Constitution. It talks about oath and affirmation. What is the difference between oath and affirmation? Let's say, for example, Prime Minister Modi. He was elected by the people of this country for the second term. He got a thumping majority in 2019 Lok Sabha elections. Before he could assume the office of the Prime Minister for the second term, he was to be administered oath or affirmation by the President of India. And President did that. And in this oath or affirmation, what the Prime Minister is saying, I swear in the name of God that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of this country, and I will uphold the unity, integrity, and sovereignty of this country. Things like that. But what is the difference between oath and affirmation? Oath is for believers, those who believe in the idea of God, those who believe that yes, God is present. So that's what they say. I swear in the name of God that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of this country. But affirmation is for those who are non-believers, who are either atheists, who reject the idea of God. They say God is not present. We have been born and we are born through natural processes. And for agnostics, those who are still not sure whether the God is present or not. So what they say when they have to be administered oath of affirmation, I solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of this country, to the laws of this country. Here lies the difference. Before a minister, before a governor, before a judge assumes the office, before the CAG assumes the office, he or she is to be administered oath or affirmation. Oath is for believers. I swear in the name of God. Affirmation is for those who do not believe in the idea of God or who are confused in the idea of God. What they say, I solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of this country. And these oaths or affirmations, they are mentioned under Schedule 3 of the Indian Constitution. And I will give you a few examples. This is how the oath looks like for the minister, for a cabinet minister. The name of the cabinet minister, let's say for example, Smriti Irani, do swear in the name of God. Or if she is a non-believer, Smriti Irani, solemnly affirm that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India as by the law established, that I will uphold the sovereignty and integrity of India, that I will faithfully discharge the duties as a member for the Union, and that I will do right to all manner of people in accordance with the Constitution and the law, without fear or favor, affection or ill will. That is how the oath looks like for a cabinet minister. Similarly, once a cabinet minister is administered oath or affirmation for the office of the ministry, then he or she is also administered oath of secrecy. What is this oath of secrecy? As a minister, there will be many matters which will be brought into my attention. I will have access to exclusive files, I will have access to exclusive details, I will have access to national security matters, I will have access to maybe the national secrets. So all these matters which are brought into my notice, because I'm the minister for the government of India, I should not disclose this to anyone else. Anyone else who does not need all this information, I should not disclose these information to those set of people. That means after the oath of office or after the affirmation of office is administered to me, I'm also administered oath of secrecy. And this is how the secrecy oath looks like. That I will not directly or indirectly communicate or reveal to any person or persons any matter which shall be brought under my consideration or shall become known to me as a minister for the Union, except as may be required for the due discharge of my duties as such minister. Because I can reveal these matters to an individual, to an institution, if it is required by law. If the law says you have to reveal it to these individuals, that is how the oath of office and secrecy looks like under Schedule 3 of the Indian Constitution. So what are we talking about? We're talking about schedules of the Indian Constitution. First, we discuss what is a schedule. Schedule is nothing but an explanatory memorandum of an article. If an article requires more explanation, add a schedule at the end of the Constitution. Then we talked about that there are various schedules in the Indian Constitution. There are 12 in number, and we are discussing 1 to 10. Schedule 1 talks about the names of the states and union territories. That's Schedule 1. Schedule 2 talks about salaries and emoluments of various constitutional functionaries, president, governor, judges, CAG, so on and so forth. Schedule 3 of the Indian Constitution talks about oath or affirmation. One important thing: oath and affirmation for the office of president and vice president is not mentioned in Schedule 3 of the Indian Constitution. It is not mentioned in Schedule 3. Where is it mentioned? It is mentioned in the text of the Indian Constitution itself. It is mentioned in the body of the Indian Constitution itself. So if you have to look at how the oath of office looks like for the president and the vice president, you have to look at the Constitution of this country. You have to look at the body of the Constitution of this country. You have to look at the text of the Constitution of this country. It is not mentioned in Schedule 3. So it can be a very important prelims-based question that can be asked in your examination. But so far as other constitutional functionaries are concerned, their oath of office, their oath of secrecy is mentioned in Schedule 3 of the Indian Constitution. Who are these other individuals? For example, oath or affirmation to be made by a candidate for election to the parliament and state legislature. If I want to contest election, whether to state legislative assembly or to Lok Sabha, what I have to do, I have to fill my nomination form before the returning officer. And while I'm filling my nomination form before the returning officer, I'm also administered oath by the returning officer. So that oath is also mentioned under Schedule 3 of the Indian Constitution. Judges of the Supreme Court and High Court, before they can assume the office, they have to be administered oath of office, and that oath is also mentioned under Schedule 3. Similarly for CAG, that oath is also mentioned under Schedule 3. Similarly, minister for a state, that is also mentioned under Schedule 3 of the Indian Constitution. But one important thing, What if I violate this oath? What if I violate this affirmation? For example, I'm a minister. I'm a cabinet minister in the government of India. I'm administered oath of office that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution, that I will uphold the unity, integrity, and sovereignty of this country. What if I'm making a speech which goes against the unity, integrity, and sovereignty of this country? What if I promote enmity between various religious groups, between various caste groups? So I'm attacking the unity, integrity, and sovereignty of this country through my actions, through my speeches, through my words. Will I be disqualified if I have violated the oath of office? That is something that was discussed in detail by the Supreme Court in the year 1985. K.C. Chandy versus R. Balakrishna Pillai, 1985 case. In this case, what is it that the Supreme Court had to rule? Supreme Court said, look at this paragraph very closely. The oath of office, insisted upon under the Constitution, is the prescription of a fundamental code of conduct and the discharge of the duties of these high offices. The oath binds the person throughout his tenure in that office, and he extricates himself from the bonds of the oath only when he frees himself from the office he holds. Today, I'm administered oath of office. This oath of office may be binding on me till I'm holding this office. I can only free myself from this bond. I can only free myself from this oath when I have relinquished this office, when I have been removed from this office. Till I'm holding this office, this oath is binding on me. But what if I violate this oath? Even then, nothing will happen to me. Why? Because who is my appointing authority? My appointing authority is the President of India. If I'm a minister at the central level, my appointing authority is the President of India. If I'm a minister at the state level, my appointing authority is the governor of the state. So if the appointing authority is the president or the governor of the state, the task, the job of removing me from my office is also that of the president and the governor. That means just because I violated my oath, that does not render me disqualified from my office. I can only be disqualified from my office. I can only be removed from my office by my appointing authority, which is the president and the governor. This is what the Supreme Court had to say. Supreme Court said if you're holding the office during the pleasure of the president, during the pleasure of the governor, then if you're violating this oath, only the president or the governor can remove you from your office. Just because you have violated the oath does not render you disqualified automatically. But then there's another side to the story. If I'm not holding an office during the pleasure of the president, if I'm not holding my office during the pleasure of the governor, and I'm violating this oath, then the violation of this oath will render me disqualified. That means if you're holding an office during the pleasure of the president or the governor, even if you violate this oath, automatically you will not be disqualified. You can be removed from your office only by the president or the governor because these are the appointing authorities. But if you're holding an office not at the discretion of the president, not on the basis of the pleasure enjoyed by the president, then if you violate the oath, you can be removed from your office. That is the sanctity of this oath or affirmation mentioned under Schedule 3 of the Indian Constitution. Now let's look at Schedule 4 of the Indian Constitution. Schedule 4 talks about representation of states in Rajya Sabha. So we have a bicameral legislature at the center. We have Lok Sabha, the House of the People, the lower house of the Indian Parliament, and we have Rajya Sabha, Council of States, House of Elders, upper house of the Indian Constitution. How many seats are allocated to Uttar Pradesh in Rajya Sabha? That is mentioned in Schedule 4. How many seats related to Madhya Pradesh are allocated in Rajya Sabha? Mentioned in Schedule 4. So Schedule 4 talks about allocation of seats in the Council of States. So in Schedule 4, what is mentioned? That for Uttar Pradesh, there are 31 MPs in Rajya Sabha, 31 seats in Rajya Sabha. For Andhra Pradesh, there are 11 seats that are mentioned in Schedule 4 of the Indian Constitution. For Telangana, there are 7 seats in Rajya Sabha. For Maharashtra, there are 19 seats in Rajya Sabha. For Tamil Nadu, there are 18 seats in Rajya Sabha. So Schedule 4 talks about allocation of seats or representation of states in Rajya Sabha, in Council of States. That is Schedule 4 of the Indian Constitution. Now let's look at Schedule 5 of the Indian Constitution. Schedule 5 and Schedule 6, they deal with the administration of tribal areas. Schedule 5 talks about the administration of the tribal areas in states other than Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram, and Tripura. That means Schedule 5 talks about the administration of a tribal area in all states except the states of Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, and Mizoram. Why are these 4 states left out? Because these 4 states are exclusively dealt in Schedule 6 of the Indian Constitution. Why are these 4 states dealt separately and exclusively under Schedule 6 of the Indian Constitution? That we will discuss when we will discuss Schedule 6 of the Indian Constitution. So right now, let's talk about Schedule 5 of the Indian Constitution. What is Schedule 5 of the Indian Constitution? Administration of a tribal area in states other than Meghalaya, Mizoram, Tripura, and Assam. But what is a tribal area? To understand this, we need to understand who are these tribes. So tribes are basically aboriginals, the original inhabitants of this country. According to various theories, the popular theory is the Aryan invasion theory. They say that Aryans came from outside, entered into India, and displaced the original inhabitants of this country. And who were the original inhabitants of this country? The tribals. And these tribals were pushed into the forests. And when they were pushed into the forests, they maintained a distinct language, culture, script, customs of their own. So these tribals have unique identity. These tribals are different from the people in the mainstream India, in the mainland India. So constitution makers thought, what will we do with these tribals? Should we integrate these tribals with the people in the mainland India? Should we assimilate them, or should we keep them aloof? Should we not touch them? Should we not interfere in their language, customs, and practices, so on and so forth? This is where Pandit Nehru came into the picture. Pandit Nehru got his advisor, Varian Alvin. And Varian Alvin was asked, please come up with a program, a policy about how we should deal with the tribals. Because during the British rule, these tribals were discriminated against. Their land was confiscated, money lenders were injected into these tribal areas, their customs were violated. That means they were discriminated against a lot. Now when the Constitution of India was to be drafted, there was one proposal that these tribals should be merged, assimilated with the people in the mainland India. There was another school of thought which said, no, don't interfere in the customs of these tribals. Let them remain who they are. If they want to merge or assimilate with the people in the mainland India, that should be their job. That should be their decision. We should not force our values over them. And that was the philosophy of Pandit Nehru and Varian Alvin as well. Pandit Nehru said, don't make these tribals the second-rate copy of yourselves. If these tribals would want to assimilate with the people of the mainland India, that should be their decision ultimately. So we should allow these tribals to develop along the lines of their own genius. But don't interfere in their customs, in their religious principles, in their language, in their script, so on and so forth. And that is how a constitutional protection was given to them under Schedule 5 and Schedule 6 of the Indian Constitution. So wherever there are significant tribals present in this country, in other states other than Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram, and Tripura, if there are tribals present in significant numbers in other states, what the Schedule 5 of the Indian Constitution says, that the president can set up a scheduled tribal area. Let me make it even simpler for you. Schedule 5 and Schedule 6 talks about the administration of the tribal areas in this country. Schedule 5 talks about all states where the tribes are present, excluding Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram, and Tripura. Why? Because tribals from these 4 areas, from these 4 states, are dealt with exclusively under Schedule 6 of the Indian Constitution. So what is Schedule 5? Tribes, aboriginals, original inhabitants of this country. They were pushed into the forests when Aryans came to India, when Aryans invaded this country, according to various theories. Although there are various people, various sets of people, various schools of thought who dispute this Aryan invasion theory. But let's not get into that. Tribals, aboriginals, original inhabitants of this country, they were pushed into the forests, but they maintained their distinctiveness, they maintained their identity, they maintained their own religious customs, practices, language, scripts, so on and so forth. Now the question before the constitutional makers was, should we assimilate them with the people in the mainland India, or should we keep them aside? Should we not interfere in them? Pandit Nehru, very relevant, started a philosophy that don't make these tribals second-rate copy of the people in the mainland India. If they want to develop, they should be allowed to develop along the lines of their own genius. We should not determine what is good for them. So for them, constitutional protection in the form of Schedule 5 and Schedule 6 was added to the Indian Constitution, was made part of the Indian Constitution. So what Schedule 5 talks about? If there are tribals in significant numbers in other states other than these 4, then what the president can do? President can create or establish a scheduled tribal area for these tribals, for the administration of these tribals. The president can increase the area of this tribal area, decrease the area of this tribal area, alter the boundaries of this tribal area, abolish this tribal area, create another tribal area. That is the power that is available with the president of India. But president administers this tribal area in close coordination with the governor of that state. So when we say president administers this tribal area in close coordination and association with the governor of the state, that doesn't mean that these are autonomous areas where the writ of the state does not enter. That means when we are talking about a scheduled tribal area, let's say for example Odisha, Telangana, where there are tribal areas present, Jharkhand, where tribal areas are present. For example, in these states, there are close to 10 states in India where tribal areas are present, where these scheduled tribal areas are present. That doesn't mean these scheduled areas in 10 states of India, they are outside the control of the state government. No, the writ of the state government is there on these tribal areas as well. But then the president and the governor has a special responsibility to ensure the development of these tribals in this scheduled tribal area. How? The president seeks to report from the governor about how the administration is carried out in this scheduled tribal area. So every year, a report is presented to the president by the governor about what are the steps that we have taken for the administration of these scheduled tribal areas. Or this report can be asked by the president after 15 days, every month for that matter. That means what is the scheduled tribal area? Tribals in significant number are present in this area. This is an area in, let's say, Odisha. What president did? Established a scheduled tribal area. Now this is a scheduled tribal area where tribals in significant number are present. That doesn't mean this area is outside the authority of the state government. The state government of Odisha will still have an authority over this tribal area. But then the president and the governor, they have a special responsibility to ensure the development and administration of this scheduled tribal area. For that, what happens? Constitution says that governor submits a report to the president, either annually or whenever the president asks, about what are the steps that have been taken for the administration of this tribal area. What are the steps that have been taken for the development of this tribal area? That is what Schedule 5 of the Indian Constitution talks about. But at the same time, there is something called Tribes Advisory Council. For the administration of these scheduled tribal area, Tribes Advisory Council is set up. What is this Tribes Advisory Council? Let's say, for example, this Tribes Advisory Council would have 20 members. But who are these 20 members? 3/4 of these members would be the tribal MLAs. And the remaining will be nominated by the governor. What are we talking about? That there is going to be a Tribes Advisory Council. Who are the members of this Tribes Advisory Council? 3/4 of these members are the tribal MLAs. Who are these tribal MLAs? We know that in Legislative Assembly, also in Lok Sabha, there are seats reserved for ST candidates, scheduled tribes in this country. Let's say, for example, we're talking about Odisha. In Odisha, Legislative Assembly elections were conducted. There are some seats which are reserved for the scheduled tribes. So when a Tribes Advisory Council is set up, 3/4 of the members of this Tribes Advisory Council would be these tribal MLAs, and the remaining would be nominated by the governor. But what is the role of this Tribes Advisory Council? To advise the governor. Advice on what matters? For example, there's a parliamentary law. Whether this parliamentary law will be applicable to this scheduled tribal area or not will be determined by the governor. So governor will decide whether a central law will be applicable to this tribal area or not. And how the governor will decide? On the advice of the Tribes Advisory Council. There's a law passed by the Odisha Legislative Assembly. Whether this law will be applicable to the scheduled tribal area or not, that governor will decide. And how governor will decide? On the basis of the advice of the Tribes Advisory Council. That means more and more protection is made available to these scheduled tribal areas. That means whenever a law is passed by the parliament or the state legislature, whether this law will apply to this tribal area or not, the governor will decide. And governor will decide on the basis of the advice given by Tribes Advisory Council. Or the governor can say that this law will be applicable to this tribal area but with these modifications. Governor will say that this state law will be applicable to this tribal area but with these modifications. And who will prescribe these modifications? Advice of the Tribes Advisory Council. That means tribals will decide whether the laws of the central government or the state government will apply to these tribal areas or not. That is the protection available to these tribal areas under Schedule 5 of the Indian Constitution. But one important thing, these matters are related to economy. That means when I said whether a law of the central government will be applicable to this tribal area or not, whether the law of the state legislature will apply to this tribal area or not, these laws deal with economic matters such as transfer of lands, sale of lands, for example, money lenders. That means whenever economic interests of these tribals in these scheduled tribal areas are concerned, economic interests, these economic interests are safeguarded, preserved by the Constitution of this country. Why and how? Let's look at the British rule. This is a tribal area. What British did? British introduced a set of money lenders in this tribal area. What these money lenders did? Money lenders provided loans to tribals. That we will keep your land as mortgage and we are providing you this loan. If you're not able to repay this loan, we will take away your land. Unfortunately, when tribals would require money, would need money, they would go to these money lenders, they will keep their land as mortgage, and then they are unable to repay that loan, their land is confiscated. And it was through these money lenders that the British ejected tribals from their tribal area. Another thing, tribals, during the British era, and even today also, they would perform shifting agriculture, June, Pora, so on and so forth. What is the shifting agriculture? This is my piece of land. I have sown a crop on this piece of land. But after a year or 2 years, the fertility of this soil is reduced. So what I'm doing, I'm shifting my agriculture to another piece of land. Because all this land is mine. All this land is communally owned by every single tribal of that area. So there was no private property. There was no private property so far as tribal areas were concerned. So I would shift my agriculture to another piece of land. And when the fertility of that soil would reduce again, I will shift to another patch of land. British banned this. British said no shifting agriculture, no June Pora in a tribal area. So it was because of the policies of the British Empire that economic impoverishment of the tribals was done. Economic exploitation of the tribals was done. So Constitution makers consciously thought that how can we protect the economic interests of these tribals? We can have a constitutional safeguard for them in the form of Schedule 5 of the Indian Constitution. So Schedule 5 protects the economic interests of the tribals. So whenever there is a law passed by the center or the state legislature, so far as economic matters are concerned, so far as transfer of tribal land is concerned, so far as money lending institutions are concerned, whether these laws will be applicable to this tribal area or not, or whether this law will be applicable to these modifications. Who will prescribe these modifications? Who will tell this? Tribes Advisory Council, when they will advise the governor. And that is the protection available to a scheduled tribal area. To recap, tribes, aboriginals, original inhabitants of this country, they were pushed to the forests. But even then, we had to protect them constitutionally. We had to safeguard their interests constitutionally. One type of interest is we have to safeguard their economic interest. And to safeguard their economic interest, we have Schedule 5 of the Indian Constitution. And it is applicable to all states except Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, and Mizoram. And how many states do we have in India where such scheduled tribal areas are present? There are 10 states in India where these scheduled tribal areas are present. That is Schedule 5 of the Indian Constitution. But let's look at Schedule 6 of the Indian Constitution. Schedule 6 contains special administrative provisions for scheduled tribes in areas in Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, and Mizoram. Another question that is on everyone's mind. Why these 4 states are dealt separately under Schedule 6 of the Indian Constitution? Why couldn't we deal with these tribal areas in Schedule 5 of the Indian Constitution itself? Let me give you the answer. When you look at tribals in this country, and there are tribals in many parts of this country, in different states in this country, but we can broadly divide these tribals into 2 broad areas. One set of tribals who have more or less assimilated with the people in the mainland India. So if you look at the tribals, and if you look at the people in that state, there is not much difference between these 2 sets of people. Let's say, for example, Odisha, Jharkhand, Telangana. If you look at a tribal and a non-tribal, you won't see much of a difference. There is a difference, but there is not such a deep, great difference between the 2 sets of individuals. But even then, the tribals have to be protected. Even then, the tribals have to be safeguarded. For that, there is Schedule 5 of the Indian Constitution. But when you look at the tribals in Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram, and Tripura, these tribals have not assimilated, these tribals have not merged their identity with the remaining set of the population. So for example, in Assam, there are 3 areas which are declared as tribal area. If you look at the tribals in these 3 areas and non-tribals in other parts of the Assam, you will see a whole lot of difference between the 2. So tribals in these 4 states, they are still way, way different from other set of people in that states. That is why we have to provide them more protection. And what is that more protection? If Schedule 5 protects the economic interests of the tribals, Schedule 6 not only protects the economic interests, but also the social customs, also the religious customs, also the linguistic customs. So when we talk about Schedule 6, there is more protection available to the tribal areas in Schedule 6 of the Indian Constitution. Schedule 5 only protects the economic interest of the tribals in these states, but Schedule 6 protects not only the economic interest but also the social customs, religious customs, linguistic customs, protecting every single aspect of a tribal life. That is what Schedule 6 of the Indian Constitution is all about. But what are the features of Schedule 6 of the Indian Constitution? Let's say, for example, this is Assam. And in Assam, there is a tribe which is present. Schedule 6 of the Indian Constitution says that this area where tribes are present, declare this area as an autonomous district. That means there is a district in Assam dominated by the tribals. One set of tribals, that means tribal of a single identity, declare this area or this district as autonomous district. And when is this autonomous district should be provided with a district council. Who will be the members of this district council? Elected. That means the people of this autonomous district will elect the members to this district council. For example, there are 13 members to this district council. 26 will be elected. The remaining 4 will be nominated by the governor. That is what we're talking about. Scheduled tribal area in Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram, and Tripura. Let's say, for example, this is Assam. In Assam, there is a district. And this district is dominated by the tribals. But one set of tribals. And what is this two set of tribals? I'll tell you slightly later. One set of tribals, they inhabit this district. Schedule 6 says, declare this district as an autonomous district. When you declare this district as an autonomous district, provide this district with a district council. Who are the members of the district council? Elections will take place. Elections will take place. 26 members to this district council will be elected by the people living in this autonomous district. And the remaining will be nominated by the governor. But what is the role of this district council? This district council will have legislative power, executive power, financial power, judicial power as well. That means to make laws on certain subjects, such as land, such as agriculture, such as money, such as customs. To make laws for the people of this autonomous district, that will be the job of this district council. To administer these laws, that is also the job of this district council. To impose certain taxes on the people in this autonomous district, that is also the job of this district council. And also judicial powers as well. For example, there are people in autonomous district. There is a dispute between two set of people in this autonomous district. Instead of going to a high court or to a supreme court of this country, you go before this district council. And if you're not satisfied with the decision, with the judgment given by this district council, then you can approach the high court, then you can approach the supreme court. But this district council will have legislative powers, executive powers, financial powers, judicial powers as well. That doesn't mean this district council will have judicial powers. District council will set up a body, and this body will have judicial functions. This body will administer justice in this tribal area, in this autonomous district. That is Schedule 6 of the Indian Constitution. But let's look at this in a different manner. Let's say, for example, again, this is Assam. And in Assam, there's a district. But in this district, there are two types of tribals inhabiting. Tribe A, Tribe B. If it was a single tribe, then declare this district as autonomous district. Provide this autonomous district with a district council, and then legislative, executive, financial, judicial powers will be given to this district council. And this district council will be elected on the basis of universal adult franchise, because members of the community in this autonomous district will elect members to this district council. But if there are two sets of tribes in a district, don't declare this district as an autonomous district, but declare them as autonomous regions. So there's region number 1, there's autonomous region number 2. And both these regions should be provided with a regional council. And these regional councils will have the same role as that of a district council. That means legislative, executive, financial, judicial powers. That is what Schedule 6 of the Indian Constitution talks about. But when you say these are autonomous regions, or these are autonomous districts, that doesn't mean they are beyond the scope and powers of the state government. The executive authority of the state extends to these autonomous districts. The executive authority of the center extends to these autonomous districts as well. But even then, these autonomous districts and regions, they have the constitutional protection that your economic interests, social, religious, linguistic customs will be protected under Schedule 6 of the Indian Constitution. So to recap a bit, there is Schedule 5 and Schedule 6. Schedule 5 for the administration of the scheduled tribal areas in all states except Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram, and Tripura. Why? Because these states are dead under Schedule 6 of the Indian Constitution. Schedule 5 protects only the economic interests of the tribals in these states. Schedule 6 protects not only the economic interests, but also the social customs, religious customs, so on and so forth. What are these customs that get protection under Schedule 6 of the Indian Constitution? For example, there's a tribe in Northeast where before a girl marries, she marries the grandfather and then marries the husband. This protection is available to this custom under Schedule 6 of the Indian Constitution because such a practice cannot be justified in the so-called mainland India. But since Schedule 6 protects not only the economic interests but also the social customs, this custom gets protection under Schedule 6 of the Indian Constitution. Similarly, there is a tribe where if I'm a boy, for example, I like a girl, I take out my horse and I kidnap this girl and then I marry this girl. How? This is called marriage by capture. In mainland India, it will be called rape. But since it is a custom unique to a tribal identity, it gets protection under Schedule 6 of the Indian Constitution. There is another tribe. If, for example, my father-in-law passes away, I marry my mother-in-law and I provide her care and protection. This would be called something else, immoral activity in mainland India. But since Schedule 6 protects the social customs as well, this custom gets protection under Schedule 6 of the Indian Constitution. Similarly, for example, if there is a girl and she likes a boy, what this girl does, she packs her belongings, enter into the house of this boy, and then convince the boy and his family that I will marry you. That's called marriage by intrusion. You're intruding into his private space and convincing him or forcing him to marry. This is protected under Schedule 6 of the Indian Constitution. And remember, Article 29 of the Indian Constitution. Any section of society which has a distinct language, script, or culture of its own and wants to preserve that culture will have the fundamental right to preserve that culture. That is Schedule 6 of the Indian Constitution. Schedule 5 for the protection of economic interests, Schedule 6 for the protection of social customs as well. That is Schedule 6 of the Indian Constitution. Now let's look at Schedule 7 of the Indian Constitution. In center-state relations, we have discussed Schedule 7 in detail, but let me recap it for you here. We have something called distribution of powers. India is a federal polity. Our constitution is federal in character. And in a federal constitution, there is a distribution of powers. That means some powers are vested with the center, some powers are vested with the states. Distribution of powers, and that distribution of powers is mentioned under Article 246 of the Indian Constitution. But to provide an explanation to Article 246, an explanatory memorandum is added at the end of the Constitution, that is Schedule 7 of the Indian Constitution. So what is Schedule 7? An explanatory memorandum of Article 246 of the Indian Constitution. And it talks about distribution of powers. Distribution of powers into union list, state list, and concurrent list. Union list, for example, banking, defense, external affairs, currency. On all these matters, only the parliament, the central parliament will have the right to make laws. State list, agriculture, police, law and order, gambling. On all these matters, in normal circumstances, only the state government, only the state legislature will have a right to make laws. What are these normal circumstances? Because when president's rule is imposed or national emergency is imposed, this distribution of powers gets suspended. So our federal constitution that assumes the shape and form of a unitary constitution. But leave that aside, Schedule 7 talks about the distribution of powers into union list, state list, and concurrent list. What is concurrent list? Both centers as well as states, they will have the right to make laws. They will have the power to make laws. And on this concurrent list, we have education, criminal procedure, civil procedure, marriage, divorce, electricity, registration of births and deaths, so on and so forth. That is Schedule 7 of the Indian Constitution. Now let us look at Schedule 8 of the Indian Constitution. But before we can talk about Schedule 8 of the Indian Constitution, we will first look at this chapter called languages. Very briefly, Schedule 8 of the Indian Constitution lists 22 Indian languages. So what Schedule 8 talks about? Schedule 8 talks about a list of 22 Indian languages that are recognized by the Constitution. That's Schedule 8. But if it talks about languages, let's understand this chapter languages in great detail. When you look at this chapter, languages, part 17 of Indian Constitution deals with official language, dealing with articles 343 to 351. And these provisions can be divided into four categories or four groups. What is the official language of the union, central government? What is the official language of the states? What is the official language for judiciary? And then there are various special directives so far as languages are concerned. Let's look at all these one by one, beginning with what is the language of the union. The Constitution says that the official language of this union shall be Hindi in Devanagari script. That means Constitution makes it absolutely clear that the official language of the union, of the central government, is Hindi in Devanagari script. But please understand, there is no national language in this country. So Constitution does not talk about a national language. Hindi is not a national language. Constitution only talks about official language. And what is official language? If the central government, it has various departments, various ministries, if they have to communicate with each other, what is the language used for that? If the center has to communicate with the state, what should be the language of communication? That is what official language is. Various publications of the central government, in which language should these publications be? That is what we call official language. Constitution says that the official language of the union, of the central government, shall be Hindi in Devanagari script. But there is no concept of national language. But at the same time, Constitution also says that for 15 years, English will continue. That means since 1950, Constitution has now declared that the official language of the union is Hindi in Devanagari script, right? But then Constitution also says that what was the official language of the center prior to the Constitution? It was English. So this English will continue. For how long? For a period of 15 years. That means that the official language of the union is Hindi in Devanagari script. But for all the practical purposes, English will continue as the medium of official language for 15 years. And after the expiry of this 15-year period, Hindi will be the only official language of the union. But the Constitution also talks about a commission and a committee. What is a commission and a committee here? Constitution says that after 5 years, this is 1950, after 5 years, that means in 1955. In 1955, you should set up a commission. After that, after every 10 years, that means now in 1955 you have set up a commission. Now after 10 years, every 10 years you have to set up a commission, which is 1965, you have to set up a commission. What should be the role of this commission? The role of the commission should be to recommend how can we progressively use Hindi as the official language of this country. The role of the commission should be, please suggest how can we restrict the use of English language and other related issues to this language. That means Constitution says official language of the union shall be Hindi in Devanagari script, right? But for 15 years, English will continue. But within this 15-year period, what will be the role? There should be a role of the commission and a committee. What is a commission? A language commission will be set up. This language commission should recommend how can we reduce the use of English and how can we progressively increase the use of Hindi language and any other related issue between English and Hindi that there may be. So please give us suggestions, please give us recommendations on this language issue. And once this commission will submit the report, then there should be a committee of the parliament on official language who should look at this report and give their suggestions on this report. Accordingly, there was a commission set up headed by DG Kher, and this commission was asked to make recommendations on the progressive use of Hindi, on the reduction of English as the official language. Please give us suggestions. And then this commission's report was looked at by a committee on the official language of the parliament, which was headed by Govind Ballabh Pant. But thereafter, no such committee, which was envisaged in 1965. Because Constitution said first you have to set up a committee in 1955, which is after 5 years of the Constitution. Then after every 10 years you have to set up a commission. In 1965, when there was a requirement to set up a commission for official language, this commission was not set up. Why? Because there was a chaos in our society, particularly in southern India and more particularly in Madras, which is currently Tamil Nadu. People were protesting. They said, why is it that Hindi is imposed on the unwilling population in South India? Our languages such as Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam, these are beautiful, very old classical languages. So why is it that Hindi is imposed on us? There were protests, large-scale protests, particularly in Tamil Nadu, which led to the killing of many people as well, and ultimately there was a compromise. And that compromise was the passing of an Official Languages Act in the year 1963. And this 1963 Act made it absolutely clear that the official language of the union is both Hindi as well as English. And this Official Languages Act of 1963 made it absolutely clear that the official language of the union is both English as well as Hindi. So the Constitution says that the official language of the union is Hindi in Devanagari script. Now this Act of the Parliament makes it clear that there are two official languages of the union, Hindi as well as English. Constitution said that for 15 years, English will continue. After that, Hindi will replace English as the only official language of the union. But Official Languages Act now makes it clear that there is no upper limit. English will continue to be used as the official language of the union for times to come. There is no upper limit, there is no time frame after which English will be stopped from being used as the official language of the union. And that is what Official Languages Act of 1963 talked about. Notwithstanding the expiration of the period of 15 years from the commencement of the Constitution, the English language may continue to be used in addition to Hindi. Number one, for all the official purpose of the union for which it was being used immediately before that day, and for the transaction of the business in the Parliament. That is the Official Languages Act of 1963. And one more important point, so far as your films is concerned, this Act enables the use of English indefinitely without any time limit. So this was about the official language of the union. What is the official language of the union? Both Hindi as well as English. Although the Constitution says that the official language of the union shall be Hindi in Devanagari script, but there is no concept of national language. That is official language of the union. That means if the union government has to communicate with the state government, it can communicate in both Hindi as well as English. If the union government has to communicate with sets of different institutions and departments, it can use both Hindi as well as English. That's the official language of the union. But what about regional languages? There has to be an official language for the state of Karnataka. There has to be an official language for the state of Tamil Nadu, for the state of West Bengal. That means if there is West Bengal governments, they have various departments and ministries. How will they communicate with each other? In which language? For that, there has to be an official language for that state. The Constitution does not specify the official language of different states. That is not mentioned. So if official language of the union is mentioned in the Constitution, what should be the official language of a state government? That is not mentioned in the Constitution. The Constitution has left it to the states. You decide whether 1, 2, or more languages should be the official language of your state. That means the Constitution has left it to the discretion of the state government that you decide what should be the official language of that state. And one important point, not limited to the languages enumerated in the 8th schedule of Indian Constitution. So after some time, I will show you the list of the languages that are recognized by the Constitution under Schedule 8 of the Indian Constitution. That doesn't mean a state government can only choose one of these languages mentioned under 8th schedule as the official language of that state. No, the state government can choose any language as their official language, even if this language is not mentioned under Schedule 8 of the Indian Constitution. Can be a very important potential question for your prelims examination. For example, a few years ago in West Bengal, the West Bengal government decided to use Kurk as one of their official languages as well. And this Kurk is a tribal language, and this tribal language is another official language of West Bengal. But this Kurk language is not mentioned under Schedule 8 of the Indian Constitution. So when the state government has to choose an official language for itself, it does not have to rely only on the languages mentioned under Schedule 8 of the Indian Constitution. But let me tell you something else. What is the official language of the union? English as well as Hindi. That means if the center has to communicate with the state, Hindi, English. Centers, various departments have to communicate with each other, Hindi as well as English. What is the official language of a state? If there's a state, there are various departments. These departments have to communicate with each other. The state government has to put out some advertisement. The state government has to put out some information. The state government has to publish its gazette. What should be the language? Depends upon various states. Not specific to Schedule 8 of the Indian Constitution. You can make any language as the official language of the state, even if this language is not mentioned under Schedule 8 of the Indian Constitution. But what about West Bengal communicating with Odisha? What about Tamil Nadu communicating with Karnataka? What about Karnataka communicating with West Bengal? What should be the language of communication when two or more states are communicating with each other? They can communicate in Hindi, they can communicate in English because that is the official language of the Union. But there's one more thing. Two or more states, they can enter into an agreement that if we have to communicate with each other, we can communicate only in Hindi. That is something which is recognized by the Constitution. That means if two or more states, they enter into an agreement with each other, that if tomorrow we have to communicate with each other, we won't communicate in English, we will communicate only in Hindi. That is also a provision available in the Constitution. And that is how Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, these states have entered into agreement with each other that we will communicate with each other only in Hindi and not in English. But what should be the language of the judiciary? What should be the language of the text that are used in various laws? English. English will be used in higher judiciary. So when we talk about Supreme Court and every high court, English will be used. But in subordinate courts and district courts and magistrate courts, the local languages will be used. The local official language of that state will be used. But in higher judiciary, in high courts and Supreme Court, only English will be used as a language of communication. In fact, the text of all the bills passed by the parliament or by the state legislature, they should also be in English language. So that is the language of the judiciary and the text of the laws. Language of the judiciary, high court, Supreme Court, English. Subordinate courts, local official language. The authoritative text of all the bills, bylaws, rules, notifications issued by the parliament and the state legislature, English will be the language used. When we began this chapter, I told you that we will talk about the official language of the union, the language for the state, we'll talk about language of the judiciary and the text of the laws, and then there are special directives. Let's look at what these special directives are. Number one, Article 350 of the Indian Constitution. If I'm a citizen and I have a complaint to make, I can make this complaint before an officer of the government in any language that is used in the state. That's Article 350 of the Indian Constitution. Every agreed person has the right to submit a representation for the redress of any grievance to any officer or authority of the union or a state. In any of the languages used in the union or in the state. In any language used in the union or in the state. That's Article 350 of the Indian Constitution. So if I have to make a representation to an officer in the central government and I'm from West Bengal, although the official language of the union is English and Hindi, but if I make this representation in Bengali, I have the right to do that because Article 350 allows me. Number two, Article 350A. It talks about children belonging to linguistic minorities. Let's say, for example, I'm from Tamil Nadu. Tamil speaking, I enter into Maharashtra. That means in Maharashtra, I became a linguistic minority. My children, at least till primary stage, should be provided instruction in my mother tongue. That means in Tamil. When I'm talking about Article 350 capital A, dealing with linguistic minorities. If I'm a linguistic minority, that means basically Bengali speaking, but now I am in Karnataka. In Karnataka, when my kids are studying, at least till their primary stage, till 5th standard, they should be provided instruction, if they want, in Bengali language. Adequate facilities for instruction in the mother tongue at the primary stage of education to children belonging to linguistic minority groups. That's Article 350 capital A of the Indian Constitution. What about Article 350 capital B? The President should appoint a special officer for linguistic minorities. Why? To investigate if these linguistic minorities have been discriminated against, if these linguistic minorities have certain concerns or causes for concern. All these concerns should be investigated by this special officer on linguistic minorities. That's Article 350 capital B. The President should appoint a special officer for linguistic minorities to investigate all matters relating to the constitutional safeguards for linguistic minorities. That is Article 350 capital B. Now let's look at Article 351. The central government, headed by Prime Minister Modi, is often accused of promoting Hindi at the expense of other languages in this country. So if you look at all India radio bulletins, if you look at the speeches made by the Prime Minister at United Nations, the speeches made by the ministers at international bodies, sometimes in Hindi and not in English, many people, particularly in South India, have been critical of the central government for unnecessarily promoting Hindi at the expense of other languages. There was a talk in the last Lok Sabha, the then External Affairs Minister, Sushma Swaraj, she wanted that Hindi should be recognized as the official language at the United Nations as well. And Dr. Shashi Tharoor said, what is the need for having Hindi as the official language at the United Nations as well? Because what if we have tomorrow a Prime Minister from West Bengal or Tamil Nadu who cannot speak Hindi? And why do we have to incur an expense of 400 crores to enable Hindi as the official language at the United Nations as well? So there was an allegation that the central government is promoting or unnecessarily promoting Hindi at the expense of other languages. But is it constitutional? Yes. Why? Because Article 351 puts the onus on the center, puts the onus on the union, that it is the responsibility of the union, it is the responsibility of the center to promote the spread and development of the Hindi language so that it may serve as the medium of expression for all the elements of the composite culture of India. So what the central government has been doing and is doing while promoting Hindi is not unconstitutional because Article 351 puts onus on the center, puts a responsibility on the center, puts a duty on the center that you have the duty to promote the spread of the Hindi language so that this language emerges as the medium of expression in this country. One more issue before we end the discussion on languages. What is a classical language? I think twice this question has been asked in the prelims examination, which are the following are classical languages. So we have 6 classical languages in this country: Sanskrit, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam, and the last one to be added to the list of the classical language, Odia. But which language is a classical language? What are the characteristics of a classical language? What are the requirements that a language can be designated as a classical language? Let's look at the requirements. A classical language, what is classic? Classic means something which has stood the test of the time, which has endured for a long time. That is what a classical language is also. High antiquity of its early texts. That means we have to recognize a language as a classical language if the history of this language dates back to 1500 or 2000 years. High antiquity, classic. Number one. Number two. So that means number one, there is this language which has a very old history of 1500 or 2000 years. But of this language, it has to meet another requirement as well. This language should be considered a valuable heritage by generations of speakers. Generations of speakers should consider this language as a valuable heritage. Number two. Number three, the literary tradition of this language, grammar, syntax, poetry, for example, it should be original and should not be borrowed from any other language. That means there should be a sense of originality in this language. Then we can designate this language as the classical language. But when we say there should be some originality in this language, that doesn't mean that this language cannot change. For example, there's a classical language, 2000, 3000 year old, but now we are entering into modern India. When we enter into modern India, there will be some changes in this language. There may be some offshoots of this language. That means various dialects of this language can be, various offshoots of this language there can be. But even if there has been various offshoots of this language, there has been some change in this language. But what about the original language? It is distinct. It is original. It has been considered as valuable heritage by the generations of speakers. If all these conditions are met, then we can designate this language as a classical language. These are the requirements for a language to be designated as a classical language. And as of now, we have 6 classical languages in this country. But then there can be a question on your mind. What is the benefit? If there's a language which has been designated as a classical language, what is the benefit after all? Let's look at the benefits. Once a language is designated as a classical language, let's say for example, Tamil is designated as a classical language, more and more funds will be allocated so that a center is set up where funds are allocated to the center so that the center can support research in this particular language so that this language can endure over a period of time. And more funds will be made to the center to study this language. That's the benefit. And if Tamil, for example, is declared as a classical language, then UGC, which regulates the higher education in this country, University Grants Commission, it can be requested that at least in central universities, you should set up professional chairs. That means if there's a scholar in Tamil language, this scholar will be appointed to various central universities so that then this scholar can start attracting crowds, start attracting students who can study this Tamil language. So that means when more and more central universities offer this language, that means more and more people will study this language, and this language will be popularized, will be promoted, will be safeguarded as well. One more thing. Do we have a minority language in this country? So if I were to ask you a question, which of the following are minority languages in this country? Number A, Urdu. B, Sanskrit. C, both. D, none. Which of the following are the minority languages in this country? What is the answer? None. We do not have a concept of minority language in this country. Instead, what we have a concept called endangered languages in this country. Which are these endangered languages? According to UNESCO, any language which is spoken by less than 10,000 people is designated as an endangered language in this country. And for the protection, promotion, and the study of these endangered languages, we have an institute in Mysore called Central Institute of Indian Languages. There is an institute at Mysore called Central Institute of Indian Languages. And this institute is responsible for the documentation, for the protection, and the preservation of these Indian endangered languages. According to the census reports, there are close to 122 endangered languages in this country. That means the languages spoken by less than 10,000 people in this country. 122 such languages. But according to activist Ganesh Narayan Devi, activist literary critic, according to Ganesh Narayan Devi, there are close to 780 potentially endangered languages in this country. That means although the recognized number is 122 endangered languages in this country, but according to this activist, there are close to 780 potentially endangered languages in this country. Now let's look at another issue called three-language formula. What is this three-language formula? When Hindi was to be imposed as the only official language of the Union in the 1960s, I told you there were protests, demonstrations, violent protests where people also got killed in Tamil Nadu, the then Madras. Then a compromise was reached, Official Languages Act was passed, and then this Official Languages Act says that English as well as Hindi will continue to be used as the official language of the Union. But then there was another compromise called three-language formula. What is the three-language formula? Different in North India, different in South India. What is the three-language formula? In South India, three languages should be taught to the students. Number one, their local language. It can be Tamil, Kannada, Telugu, Odia. Second, English. Third, Hindi. Three-language formula. Three languages should be taught to the students. In North India, the one language that should be taught to them is Hindi. Second, it should be English. And third, it should be any other Indian language, preferably a South Indian language. That is how three-language formula originated in the 1960s and the mid-1960s. So the objective was that Hindi will be promoted in non-Hindi speaking population, and South Indian languages, beautiful classical languages of South India, will also be promoted in the North India. But then when we look at the implementation of this three-language formula, we see that in Tamil Nadu, instead of three-language formula, only two languages are used, Tamil and English. In Tripura, for example, two languages are used. In Tamil Nadu, in Tripura, in Puducherry, Hindi is not taught in the states. And in many Hindi-speaking states, when the policymakers thought that we can popularize and promote a South Indian language in North India as well, this third language was replaced by Sanskrit. So instead of a South Indian language, Sanskrit became the third language in North Indian states. That is why there are many people in this country who are today advocating that we should abolish this three-language formula and we should go back to two-language formula. So in this chapter, languages, what is it that we have discussed? We discussed official language of the center, official language of the state, what is the language for the judiciary and the text of the laws passed by the parliament and the state legislature, and we also discussed the special directives concerning languages in this country. Then we talked about Official Languages Act, we talked about endangered languages, we talked about classical languages, we talked about whether or not we have a concept called minority language in this country. Now let me take you to Schedule 8 of the Indian Constitution. There are 22 languages which are recognized as the scheduled languages in this country under Schedule 8 of the Indian Constitution. Originally there were only 14 languages, but 8 more languages were added over a period of time. And now we have 22 languages recognized by the 8th Schedule of Indian Constitution. And please remember and ensure that English is not one such language. Why? Despite the fact that English is the official language of the Union, why English is not mentioned in the 8th Schedule of the Indian Constitution? 8th Schedule, remember, only talks about Indian languages. Since English is not an Indian language, English is not part of 8th Schedule. Which are these languages part of the 8th Schedule? Assamese, Bengali, Bodo, Dogri, Gujarati, Hindi, Kannada, Kashmiri, Konkani, Maithili, Malayalam, Manipuri, Marathi, Nepali, because Nepal was once part of India. Oriya, Punjabi, Sanskrit, Santhali, Sindhi, Tamil, Telugu, and Urdu. All these 22 languages are part of the 8th Schedule of Indian Constitution. Now let us look at Schedule 9 of the Indian Constitution. When we discussed directive principles of state policy, also when we discussed fundamental rights, we discussed about the first Constitutional Amendment Act of 1951, which added 9th Schedule to Indian Constitution. What is this 9th Schedule? Very briefly, let me recap it for you. Any law placed in 9th Schedule, there is no judicial review. What was the objective of this 9th Schedule? When Zamindari Abolition Act was declared by the Supreme Court that it is unconstitutional because you're violating fundamental rights by this law. Similarly, when Land Reforms Act was passed, Supreme Court said it is unconstitutional because you're violating right to property, right to equality, mentioned under the fundamental rights chapter. Then what the Parliament did, Pandit Nehru was the Prime Minister, amended the Constitution, added Schedule 9 to the Indian Constitution. And then these Land Reforms Act, Zamindari Abolition Act, they were added to the 9th Schedule of the Indian Constitution. Because the text of the 9th Schedule said any law placed in 9th Schedule is immune from judicial review. That is what 9th Schedule said. But then the question arose that when on 24th of April 1973, Supreme Court said in Keshwanath Bharati versus State of Kerala that judicial review is part of the basic structure of Indian Constitution. How can 9th Schedule of the Indian Constitution reconcile with Keshwanath Bharati verdict? Then came a landmark ruling in the year 2007 in IR Kolo versus State of Tamil Nadu in 2007. In this judgment, the Supreme Court made it clear. Supreme Court said that all laws which are placed in 9th Schedule till 24th April 1973, because it was on this date that Keshwanath Bharati judgment was given to the Supreme Court, when Supreme Court said basic structure, one of the basic structures of Indian Constitution is this concept called judicial review. Supreme Court said till 24th April 1973, any law and all laws placed under 9th Schedule, there is no judicial review. But all laws placed under 9th Schedule after this date of 24th April 1973, there will be judicial review. But even then there is a safeguard. What is the safeguard? If a law is placed in 9th Schedule today, let's say in 2019, if a law is placed in 9th Schedule, what is the protection available to this law? The protection available is that this law can violate the Constitution. Yes, this law can violate the Constitution. But this law cannot violate the basic structure of Indian Constitution. What is the difference? That means if there's a law which is placed in 9th Schedule, if this law violates any provision of the Constitution, it can do that because Schedule 9 says that this law can violate Articles 14, 19, 31, so on and so forth. But this law should not violate the basic structure of Indian Constitution. And only if this law which is placed in 9th Schedule violates the basic structure of Indian Constitution, only then it can be declared unconstitutional by the judiciary. That is what Schedule 9 of the Indian Constitution is all about. Let us look at Schedule 10 of the Indian Constitution dealing with anti-defection law. In this lecture, what are we going to talk about? We will discuss what is anti-defection law? What was the need to enact an anti-defection law in this country? What are the various provisions of anti-defection law? What are the exceptions to anti-defection law? And whether this anti-defection law is working effectively on the ground or not? If not, what are the possible reforms that we can suggest for the better implementation of the anti-defection law in this country? First up, the background. Party hoppings or political defections were the norm in this country, and it is the norm even today. How? Let's say, for example, there are two parties, A and B. Both these political parties are contesting the election, and they're contesting election to, let's say, a legislative assembly. And in this legislative assembly, there are 100 seats. What is the number of seats required by any of these political parties so that they can form the government? 51. Absolute majority. The election is over. People have overwhelmingly voted in these elections. And once the results are declared, Party A got 55 seats, Party B got 45 seats. Now, which political party will form the government? Party A. I'm also a member of this Party A. But what I do, I'm aspiring to become a chief minister. I'm not made the chief minister. In fact, I'm not even given a ministerial position. Now, what I do, along with 6 of my colleagues, or 5 of my colleagues, I resign from Party A and I join Party B. Now, what is the strength of Party B? The strength of the Party B becomes 51. The strength of Party A drops to 49. Now, which political party is in a position to form the government? Party B. But why did I join Party B? Number one, I was promised a ministerial berth. You become a finance minister. Maybe I was also promised large amounts of money. My other MLAs were also promised large amounts of money. Isn't this corruption? Isn't this political immorality? That's number one. Number two, when I contested this election, I asked the people of my constituency, please vote for me. Maybe the people of my constituency voted for me not because of who I am, but maybe because of the party I represent, Party A. Maybe they voted for me because of the ideology of my political party and not necessarily for who I am. So when I'm resigning from my Party A and joining Party B, despite the fact that people in my constituency voted against Party B, I'm joining the same political party. Isn't this political immorality? Yes. And at the same time, this party hopping or political defection, switching from one party to another party, it also led to the fall of more than 50 state governments since 1950. That means one political party is short of numbers. It poaches MLAs from other political party by bribing them, by promising them ministerial berths. It is political corruption of the worst order. The curious case is that of a Haryana politician, Gaya Lal. Gaya Lal was part of various political parties in Haryana. In fact, Gaya Lal switched his party 3 times in a fortnight. Resigned from Congress, joined United Front, resigned from United Front, joined Janata Dal, then came back to United Front, so on and so forth. When he joined the Congress party again, Rao Birendra Singh, who was the head of the Congress party in Haryana, he brought Gaya Lal before the press so that he can announce the re-entry of Gaya Lal into Congress. The press people asked a very important question. Whose side is Gaya Lal on? Is he part of Janata Dal, United Front, Congress? We don't know. Rao Birendra Singh said, Gaya Ram is now Aya Ram. He has now come back to our party. And then this phrase, Aya Ram, Gaya Ram, which is the phrase given to political defections in this country. This is Haryana's gift to our electoral system. Political defections, party hopping, Aya Ram, Gaya Ram. This was the menace which was plaguing our electoral system, and we had to get rid of this menace. Come 1985, Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister, and a law was passed by the Parliament, Constitution was amended. 10th schedule was added to the Indian Constitution called anti-defection law. And this anti-defection law made this party hopping, political defections, Aya Ram, Gaya Ram, slightly difficult in this country. Let's look at what are the various provisions of this anti-defection law. Provision number 1, a member of a house belonging to any political party shall be disqualified from being a member of the house if, number 1, he voluntarily gives up his membership of such political party. What does that mean? I contested election on a Congress ticket and I won the election. Now I'm seeing that BJP is in a position to form the government. I resigned from Congress party and I joined BJP. This amounts to defection, and under anti-defection law I will be disqualified. That means if an individual member of the parliament or a member of the state legislature, because this anti-defection law applies to Rajya Sabha MP, Lok Sabha MP, Legislative Assembly MLA, Legislative Council MLC, all the legislators in this country. And if there is a legislator who voluntarily resigns from his party and joins another political party, this member of the parliament or this legislator shall be disqualified. That's provision number 1. Provision number 2. If he abstains from voting in such a house contrary to the direction or the whip issued by the political party. What is this whip? Whip is like a directive. And there are 3 types of whips. 1-line whip, 2-line whip, and a 3-line whip. What is the difference? Let's say, for example, there are 52 MPs belonging to the Congress party in Lok Sabha. And then there's a chief whip of this party in the Lok Sabha. This chief whip is the floor manager of this political party. That means this chief whip manages the members of the parliament belonging to the Congress party in Lok Sabha. Now this chief whip can issue various types of whips. 1-line whip, 2-line whip, 3-line whip. What is this 1-line whip? This chief whip will issue a directive to all the 52 MPs of Congress in the Lok Sabha that tomorrow there's going to be a session in Indian Parliament. There's going to be a session of Lok Sabha. Please attend. 1-line whip. Just informing the members of the party that tomorrow there's going to be a session of Parliament in Lok Sabha. Please attend. 1-line whip. 2-line whip is tomorrow there's going to be a session of Indian Parliament. There in Lok Sabha there's going to be a discussion on, let's say, Triple Talaq bill. Please come, attend, and participate in this discussion. That's all. That is 1-line whip. Tomorrow there's going to be a session of Indian Parliament. Please attend. 2-line whip. Tomorrow there's going to be a session of Indian Parliament and there's going to be a discussion on Triple Talaq bill. Please discuss. 3-line whip is very important. In 3 lines, directives are issued. Number 1, tomorrow there's going to be a session of Lok Sabha. Second, there's going to be a discussion, debate on Triple Talaq bill. Third, there's going to be a voting on this bill as well. You have to vote against this bill, or you have to vote in favor of this bill. If this 3-line whip is violated by any member of that political party, you are liable to be disqualified. That means what is this anti-defection law? To prevent political defections in this country, to eradicate this Aya Ram, Gaya Ram politics in this country. Anti-defection law was passed by the Indian Parliament in 1985. 10th schedule was added to the Indian Constitution. What are the provisions of this anti-defection law? Number 1, if I am a member of a political party, this political party gave me ticket to contest the election. I contested the election. I won the election on this party's ticket. Now, after my election, if I voluntarily resign from this party, I will be disqualified. That's number 1. Number 2, there can be whips issued, directives issued by this political party to me. 1-line whip, 2-line whip, these are not coercive in nature. That means even if you violate 1-line whip, 2-line whip, no action will be taken against you, or no action can be taken against you, or you will not be disqualified. But if you violate a 3-line whip, you will be disqualified. What is this 3-line whip? The party issues a directive to me that tomorrow there is a session going on in Lok Sabha. Please attend. Second line, there is going to be a discussion on Triple Talaq bill. Please participate. 3-line whip, there is going to be a voting on this Triple Talaq bill, and you have to vote against this bill, or you have to vote in favor of this bill. If you violate this whip, this directive issued by the political party, you can be disqualified from being a member of that parliament. But there is again one exception. Let's say, for example, I was issued a directive, a 3-line whip by my political party, that you have to vote against this Triple Talaq bill. But I'm voting in favor of this Triple Talaq bill, and later on I'm convincing my party that you all should have voted in favor of this Triple Talaq bill. This is a beautiful piece of legislation. If my party condones my action, if my party agrees with me, if my party says yes, we agree with your decision that you have violated our bill and you have voted in favor of this bill, I have 15 days to convince my party. If within these 15 days my political party condones my activity, my political party says, okay, even if you have violated this bill, we won't take any action against you, then I will not be disqualified. That is what the statement says. If he votes or abstains, that means my party tells me vote against. I'm not voting in favor, but I'm not voting at all either. I'm abstaining from voting. Even then I can be disqualified. If he votes or abstains from voting in such house, contrary to any direction which is whip issued by the political party to which he belongs, or by any person or authority authorized by it, because here's the chief whip, authorized by my political party to issue this bill without obtaining in either case the prior permission of such political party, that means I'm not obtaining the prior permission of my party that I want to vote in favor of this bill. And such voting or abstention has not been condoned by such political party within 15 days from the date of such voting or abstention. That means even if I violated the whip, I may not be disqualified if, number 1, I have sought prior permission from my party that I will be violating your whip, or 2, if within 15 days the party condones my activity, condones my action, says, okay, if you have done it once but don't do it again, we need an apology from you, but we won't seek your disqualification from the parliament. That is another provision on the basis of which an elected member of the legislature can be disqualified from the house if he or she violates the whip issued by the political party. Another provision, an independent candidate. Let's say, for example, I'm a candidate. I wanted to contest the election from Amethi constituency in Uttar Pradesh. I approached the Congress party. They refused to give me the ticket and instead gave the ticket to Rahul Gandhi. I approached the BJP. The BJP said, no, Smriti Irani is our winnable candidate. She will beat Rahul Gandhi and we will give this ticket to Smriti Irani. I decided to contest the election on my own. That means I was not set up by any political party. I contested this election as an independent candidate and I defeated both Rahul Gandhi as well as Smriti Irani. Now I'm an independent member of the parliament. That means I am a member of the parliament, but I do not belong to any political party. I'm an independent member of the parliament. Now after my election, if I join any political party, I will be disqualified. That means maybe people of my constituency voted for me because I belong to neither the BJP nor the Congress. The people of my constituency thought that I'm going to take care of their interests because I do not belong to either of these political parties. Now if I'm joining a political party after my election, I'm violating the trust imposed by the people of my constituency in me. So that is why if an independent member of a parliament joins a political party after the election, disqualified under anti-defection law, then there's a nominated member. Because we're talking about different types of members in the parliament. In a parliament, there can be a member belonging to a political party. If he voluntarily resigns from that political party, disqualified. If he abstains or votes against the whip issued by the political party, disqualified. Third, now this member can be an independent member of the parliament. If this independent member joins a political party after the election, disqualified. Now this member can also be a nominated member. There can be 12 nominated members in Rajya Sabha. There can be 2 nominated members in Lok Sabha. There can be 1 nominated member in Legislative Assembly in a state. There can be many nominated MLAs. There can be many nominated MLCs in Legislative Council. These nominated members, they have 6 months. That means if today I'm nominated as a member to Rajya Sabha, within 6 months, I can decide whether I want to join BJP or Congress or Mahabharat Bandhan or whichever political party. But if I join a political party 6 months after my nomination, I will be disqualified. That is what the statement says. A nominated member of a house shall be disqualified from being a member of the house if he joins any political party after the expiry of 6 months from the date on which he takes his seat. But now let's look at one more thing. I am a member of parliament, I belong to Congress, or I belong to BJP, for example. And now the BJP has decided to expel me from the political party. Will I also be disqualified as a member of the parliament under anti-defection law? Let's look at a few cases on this particular matter. Amar Singh and Jayaprada, they belong to Samajwadi Party. There were some allegations against both Amar Singh as well as Jayaprada, and ultimately what happened, Samajwadi Party expelled both these members from their party. And when they were expelled, even then they were told that whip is still binding on you. That is, although you have been expelled from the political party, but you won't be disqualified. But even then, whatever directive we issue to you, that is going to be binding on you. If you violate the whip issued by our political party to you, you will be disqualified under anti-defection law. Amar Singh approached the Supreme Court, asking the Supreme Court that dear Supreme Court, I am not voluntarily resigning from my political party. If I would have voluntarily resigned from my political party, I would be disqualified under anti-defection law. This much I know. But I have been expelled by my political party. If my political party has expelled me, number one, I cannot be disqualified from the parliament because anti-defection law does not talk about expelled member. But if I have been expelled by my political party, why should the whip issued by the political party be binding on me? It should not be binding on me because this political party has expelled me. What Supreme Court did? Supreme Court declared Amar Singh as an independent member of the parliament. That means once you are an independent member of the parliament, that means the whip issued by the Samajwadi Party is not binding on you. And now you are an independent member of the parliament. Now you cannot join any other political party as well because if an independent member of the parliament joins another political party after the election, this individual member shall be disqualified on the grounds of anti-defection law. This is case number 1. Case number 2. Vinod Kumar Binni. He was one of the 28 MLAs of the Aam Aadmi Party when Aam Aadmi Party contested the election for the first time in the year 2013. But then Vinod Kumar Binni, he had ministerial ambitions. He wanted to become a minister. He was not made a minister and ultimately he was sulking all the time. And what happened? Arvind Kejriwal removed or expelled Vinod Kumar Binni from Aam Aadmi Party. And even then, the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly of Delhi said the whip issued by Aam Aadmi Party is still binding on you. That means although we are expelling you from the party, but the whip is still going to be binding on you. If you violate this whip issued by Aam Aadmi Party, you will be disqualified. Vinod Kumar Binni approached the court and asked the court that just like you treated Amar Singh as an independent member of the parliament, treat me also as the independent member of the Delhi Legislative Assembly. But before this decision could be taken by the judiciary, the Legislative Assembly of Delhi was dissolved and fresh elections were announced. So this question of Vinod Kumar Binni remained unaddressed. Then came Amar Singh again into the picture. He was expelled by Mulayam Singh Yadav when he was the head of the Samajwadi Party, and he was expelled. He approached the Supreme Court. Supreme Court treated him as an independent member of the Rajya Sabha. But then the ties between Mulayam Singh Yadav and Amar Singh, they developed again, and Amar Singh was brought back into Samajwadi Party. And when he was brought back to Samajwadi Party, he was given a Rajya Sabha ticket. He won the election and got elected to Rajya Sabha as well. But now the relationship between Amar Singh and Akhilesh Yadav deteriorated. Now Akhilesh Yadav became the president of Samajwadi Party, and Akhilesh Yadav is now expelling Amar Singh. Amar Singh says, "What is this? First time your father expels me, now you are expelling me." And Amar Singh is told, even if we have expelled you, the whip is still binding on you. He approaches the Supreme Court again. Supreme Court now remembers, yes, Amar Singh, same case, but now 2 different reasons. Now Amar Singh is pleading before the Supreme Court that some years ago I was expelled by the same political party, but you came to my rescue. You declared me as an independent candidate. Please do the same thing again. Now the son of that man has expelled me from the political party. I have come before you. Please treat me as an independent member of the Rajya Sabha. And the Supreme Court said, okay, we are treating you as an independent member of the Rajya Sabha. You are not attached to any political party. So that means now we have a clarity. If a member of a political party resigns from that political party, he will be disqualified. If an independent member joins a political party after the election, disqualified. If a nominated member joins a political party 6 months after the election, disqualified. Or 6 months after the nomination, disqualified. If a parliamentarian or if a legislator violates the whip issued by the political party, disqualified. But what if a member belonging to a political party has been expelled by that political party? You won't be disqualified, but maybe you will be treated as an independent member of the parliament or the state legislature. That's number 1. Number 2, how do we define this phrase, voluntarily resign? That means anti-defection law says a member belonging to a political party, if he voluntarily resigns from his party, he will be disqualified. But what do we mean by this phrase, voluntarily resign? A few years ago, 2 members of the JDU, Sharad Yadav and Anwar Ali, they were disqualified from Rajya Sabha on the grounds of the violation of anti-defection law, despite the fact that they had not voluntarily resigned, despite the fact that they had not submitted their resignation. So why were they disqualified? They were disqualified because they were attending opposition rallies, they were criticizing the leadership of the party, they were attending the protests and programs of the opposition political party. So impression was given that although Sharad Yadav and Anwar Ali, they have not submitted formal resignation to JDU, Janata Dal United, to which they belonged, they have not submitted formal resignation to this party, but their activities outside the parliament, their activities on the roads, their activities on the ground are such that we can safely assume that they have resigned from their political party. This is something that was decided by the Supreme Court in Shri Rajendra Singh Rana and others versus Swami Prasad Moria and others. In this case, what the Supreme Court said? Supreme Court said formal resignation is not required. To disqualify somebody, to say that this individual has resigned from his party, that is why he should come under anti-defection law, that is why he should be disqualified from the parliament or the state legislative assembly. Formal resignation is not required. But if the conduct of this individual outside the house, if the conduct of this individual outside the party office is such that we can safely assume that he has voluntarily resigned from this party. In this case, anti-defection law will apply and this individual will be disqualified under 10th schedule of Indian Constitution. Please read this paragraph carefully. A person may voluntarily give up his membership of an original political party, even though he has not tendered his resignation. Even in the absence of a formal resignation from the membership, an inference can be drawn from the conduct of a member that he has voluntarily given up his membership of the political party to which he belongs. Now, I know there's a question on your mind. What about Shatrughan Sinha? Shatrughan Sinha was a member of Lok Sabha belonging to the BJP from Patna Sahib constituency from Bihar. He was all the time attacking the Prime Minister, the party, attending the rallies of the opposition political parties, attending the rallies of the opposition leaders. Despite this, he was not disqualified under anti-defection law. Why? It's because nobody filed a case. Somebody has to file a case, a petition before the presiding officer, because the speaker has the power under anti-defection law to disqualify a member. Somebody has to file a petition before the speaker that this particular individual should be disqualified under anti-defection law. In case of Shatrughan Sinha, the party, the BJP, decided not to proceed, not to file a petition before the speaker calling for the disqualification of Mr. Shatrughan Sinha. That is why he was not disqualified. But provisions are clear. But then there are some exceptions to anti-defection law as well. Disqualification on ground of defection not to apply in case of merger. What is this merger? Let's say, for example, there is a political party with 30 MLAs. If two-thirds of these MLAs, that means if 20 MLAs decided that we should resign from this political party A and we should merge with a political party B, then in that case, anti-defection law would not apply. That means these 20 MLAs will not be disqualified. How? Anti-defection law says if a member belonging to a political party voluntarily gives up his membership of that political party, this member should be disqualified from being a member of the parliament. But here, 20 MLAs are voluntarily deciding that we want to give up the membership of our political party and we want to merge with another political party B. In this case, anti-defection law would not apply because disqualification on the ground of defection will not apply if there is a two-third merger. And what about the remaining 10 MLAs? They can continue to be part of this party A, or they can decide that no, we will continue as a separate entity. We will neither be part of party A nor we will be part of party B. That is disqualification. There is one exception. It won't apply in case there is a two-third merger. There is another exception. Let's say, for example, I am a speaker of Lok Sabha, or I am a speaker of Legislative Assembly, or I am a deputy chairperson of Rajya Sabha, or I am a deputy chairperson of a legislative council, but I belong to a political party first. Now what happens? Let's say, for example, I am Mr. A, I belong to BJP, and now I have contested the election for the post of the Speaker of Lok Sabha, and now I am elected as the Speaker of Lok Sabha. But as a speaker, I think that I do not belong to any political party. I belong to the House. I belong to entire Lok Sabha now. So if I belong to entire Lok Sabha, that means I should give up the membership of my political party. I should resign from BJP. In this case, anti-defection law will not apply. That means if I am elected as the Speaker or the Deputy Speaker of the Lok Sabha, or Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha, or the Chairman or Deputy Chairman of a Legislative Council, or the Speaker of a Deputy Speaker of a Legislative Assembly of a state, I will not be disqualified on the grounds of anti-defection law if I resign from my party because I have been elected to these posts. That's number one. But now let's look at one more thing. I belong to BJP before my election as the Speaker, and once I have been elected as the Speaker of Lok Sabha, I voluntarily resign from BJP. Anti-defection law would not apply in my case. But now I'm continuing as the Speaker. If while I'm continuing as the Speaker, if I join BJP again, while I'm still the Speaker, I will be disqualified. That means I resign from my party because I was elected as the Speaker. Till the time I'm the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. If I join the same political party again, I will be disqualified. If I join any other political party again, I will also be disqualified. That means during my term as the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, I should not join any political party, even if it is the same political party which set me up as a candidate for the election. I cannot. This is what paragraph 8 talks about. What paragraph B says? I'm the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. I belong to the BJP. Now I'm resigning from the post of the Speaker, or I'm removed from the office of the Speaker. Now what will happen to me? To which political party should I belong? I have to join the same party again, which is the BJP. If I join any other political party, I will be disqualified. That means what are we talking about? We're talking about anti-defection law. What was the need to have an anti-defection law in this country? Political defections, party hoppings, Iran, Gairan. What are the provisions of anti-defection law? We have discussed. What are the exceptions? That means in case of two-third merger, anti-defection law would not apply. In case of Speaker, Deputy Speaker, Deputy Chairman, Chairman of a Legislative Council, if an individual member is appointed to these posts and he voluntarily resigns from that party, won't be disqualified. These are the exceptions to anti-defection law. But who will take this decision? Whether a particular member should be disqualified under anti-defection law or not? Because when we talked about union legislature, I told you that a member of parliament can be disqualified on various grounds. And one such ground is change in the nature of citizenship, office of profit, if he is declared or if he is adjudged insolvent, bankrupt. In all these cases, this particular member of the parliament will be disqualified by the president on the basis of the report prepared by the election commission. But so far as 10th schedule is concerned, anti-defection law is concerned, this decision of disqualification will be taken up by the speaker, will be taken up by the presiding officer. So Speaker of Lok Sabha will decide the questions related to anti-defection law. Speaker of Legislative Assembly will decide these questions. Chairperson of Rajya Sabha will decide these questions, which is the Vice President of India. Clear? Now I know there is one more question on your mind. What if the Speaker himself is subject to disqualification under anti-defection law? What if the Chairperson of Rajya Sabha himself is subject to disqualification under anti-defection law? In these cases, who will take the decision? Who will disqualify these individuals? Will it not be violation of principles of natural justice, which says nobody should be the judge in his own case? If I will decide whether I should be disqualified or not because I am the Speaker of Lok Sabha. In that case, Schedule 10 of the Indian Constitution says, provided that where the question which has arisen is as to whether the chairman or the Speaker of the House has become subject to such disqualification, this decision will be taken by such a person who is elected by that House. That means in this case, if I as a Speaker is subject to defection, if I as a Speaker is subject to disqualification under anti-defection law, my case will be decided by a member who is elected by Lok Sabha for this particular purpose. Clear? And the original anti-defection law of 1985 said the decision of the Speaker shall be final. But then the matter went to the court. In 1993, in a landmark verdict, Kyoto Holohan versus Zachilu, the Supreme Court said we agree and accept all the provisions of anti-defection law. If you want to clean your electoral system, your politics, then we are with you and anti-defection law is constitutional. But at the same time, if anti-defection law is constitutional, we don't agree with this phrase that the decision of the Speaker shall be final and binding. Because if the decision of the Speaker is final and binding, that means there can be no judicial review. Nobody can review, judiciary cannot review the decision taken by the Speaker. It goes against the basic structure of Indian Constitution. Because since judicial review is part of the basic structure of Indian Constitution, and you are trying to snatch this power of judicial review so far as anti-defection law is concerned. This is something that we don't agree with. Anti-defection law is legal, constitutional, but there will be judicial review on the decision taken by the Speaker, because judicial review is part of the basic structure of Indian Constitution. Now let us look at whether this law is working effectively on the ground or not. And this is where we encounter the role of the Speaker. So we have to look at whether the Speaker has been partial or impartial while applying anti-defection law or not. Second, we also have to look at whether the merger, two-third merger clause in anti-defection law, whether it is good or bad. Third, we also have to look at whether a member of parliament should be disqualified for violating the whip issued by the political party. Because then what happens to the freedom of speech and expression of a member of the parliament? On these three issues, we will analyze this anti-defection law. Number one, Speaker. Let me give you the example. Two examples, one from Arunachal Pradesh, the other from Telangana, and you will understand this is the grave problem with the anti-defection law. In Arunachal Pradesh, there was a chief minister of the Congress party, and the Congress chief minister, he had few ministers as well. Ultimately, there was a revolt within the party. The party or few members of the party wanted the chief minister to go, wanted the chief minister out so that a new chief minister can be appointed. So that means there were close to 14 MLAs in Arunachal Pradesh belonging to the Congress party who wanted the chief minister out. Speaker of the Arunachal Pradesh Assembly was the nephew of the chief minister, and what the speaker did, he disqualified all these 14 MLAs under anti-defection law. That means in this case, the speaker acted very quickly, the speaker acted very swiftly and disqualified these 14 MLAs. We're not getting into whether this action of the speaker was constitutional or unconstitutional. I'm only talking about the swiftness, the quickness with which the decision was taken by the speaker. This is Arunachal Pradesh. Now let me give you the example of Telangana. 2014 elections, KCR, his party TRS won the election and KCR became the chief minister. There was one MLA of the opposition political party, TDP. His name was T. Srinivas Yadav. He was an MLA from the Sanatnagar constituency, won the election on the TDP ticket, but he resigned from the TDP and joined TRS. When he joined TRS, he was made a minister. But when he was made a minister, many people ask the question, how can an MLA who belonged to TDP, without winning the election, he should not have been appointed as a minister? Because it's a violation of 91st Constitutional Amendment Act. 91st Constitutional Amendment Act makes it absolutely clear that a defector cannot be appointed to a remunerative political post. What does that mean? There's a TDP MLA. He won on the TDP ticket. Now he has resigned from TDP and he has joined TRS. And without winning the election again, he is made a minister of commercial taxes in the TRS government. Many people question, is it not violative of 91st Constitutional Amendment Act? Because 91st Constitutional Amendment Act makes it absolutely clear that if you have a defector who has defected from one political party to another, unless and until this defector is re-elected to the House, he should not be appointed to any remunerative political post. And what is a remunerative political post? Any post for which the salary is paid from the public revenue. The salary of a minister is paid from the public revenue. That means it is a remunerative political post. A defector, T. Srinivas Yadav, cannot be elected to this remunerative political post. Then how was he appointed? Is it not violation of the Constitution? And many people thought that we should petition the court. We should petition the Andhra Pradesh High Court. Then this question was answered by the government itself. Government said that Mr. T. Srinivas Yadav has not resigned from the TDP. When he has not resigned from the TDP, there is no question of disqualification. There is no question of violating 91st Constitutional Amendment Act because he has not resigned from the TDP. Fair enough. If he has not resigned from the TDP, clear. But then he is a minister of commercial taxes in a TRS government. Can we not safely assume that T. Srinivas Yadav, despite the fact that he has not submitted the formal resignation, can we not safely assume that he has resigned from his parent political party, which is the TDP, because he is a minister in a TRS government? In this case, when a petition calling for the disqualification of T. Srinivas Yadav from the Telangana Legislative Assembly was filed before the Speaker of the Telangana Legislative Assembly, he did not act at all. In fact, in 2019, there were fresh elections to Telangana Legislative Assembly, and despite that, T. Srinivas Yadav continued as the minister for 5 full years. That means Speaker of Telangana Assembly is not acting at all. In case of Arunachal Pradesh, the Speaker is acting in a jiffy. The Speaker is acting in swiftness, in quickness, and disqualifying 14 MLAs. And in case of Telangana, the Speaker is not acting at all. So that means on ground, anti-defection law is not working because the office of Speaker, after all, is a political office. After all, the Speaker always belongs to a ruling party or the ruling coalition. And Speaker hesitates taking action against an individual if this individual belongs to the ruling party or if this individual is aligned with the ruling party. This is where a reform is required. Prescribe a time limit. Time limit can be 2 months, 6 months, 6 weeks, whatever. Prescribe a reasonable time frame so that the Speaker can act within a reasonable time frame and decide upon this question whether an individual should be disqualified under anti-defection law or not. Prescribe a time limit so that after this time limit is over, you can approach the judiciary. Because in case of T. Srinivas Yadav, when the matter went to the High Court said we are helpless at a pre-decisional stage. What is this pre-decisional stage? The High Court said yes, there is judicial review, but we have to review the decision taken by the Speaker. Unless and until the Speaker takes a decision, the Speaker should take a decision whether T. Srinivas Yadav should be disqualified or not. Speaker is not taking a decision. That is why we are helpless at the pre-decisional stage. First, let the decision be taken by the Speaker, then we can enter into the picture and say and review whether the action of the Speaker is constitutional or unconstitutional. Because if time limit is prescribed, then within this time limit, the Speaker has to take a decision. If the Speaker takes a decision one way or the other, then the judiciary can enter into the picture and review the decision taken by the Speaker. That's one reform. Second, on all other matters of disqualifications, if a member of Parliament is to be disqualified on the grounds of change in the nature of citizenship, on the grounds of adjudged insolvent, on the grounds of mental illness, if you are mentally unstable, that means you can be disqualified. But who takes this decision? President or the governor? President in case of Parliament, governor in case of state legislature. And President and the governor takes the decision on the basis of the report of the Election Commission of India. And this report of the Election Commission of India is binding on the President or the governor. Why can't we have a similar provision in case of anti-defection law as well? Instead of giving the power to the Speaker to decide on the question of the disqualification, we should entrust this responsibility to the President and the governor, and the President and the governor shall take the decision on the basis of the report submitted by Election Commission of India. Significant reform. So now this aspect of Speaker is done. Let's look at the merger. You say there are 30 MLAs. If 20 MLAs decide that we don't want to be part of this party A, we want to join party B, this merger of 2/3 MLAs is allowed. These MLAs will not be disqualified. What is the logic? The logic is that we are a group of people, we join the political party A, and we believe in some of the ideologies of this political party A. But now the leadership of this party A, they have deviated from the ideology. They are violating the constitution of the party, the ethics of the party, the morality of the party, the ideology of the party, taking workers of the party for granted, not giving freedom of speech and expression to the MLAs of this political party. So if this party A has violated the ideology of its constitution, then these 2/3 MLAs, if they feel suffocated within this political party, it is justified for them to come out of this political party and join another political party, merge with another political party. Completely justified. But when you look at this clause, merger, it is being used, overused, misused, and abused by the political parties in this country. It is very difficult to split a political party which has 100 MLAs. Very difficult. Difficult to split a party which has 200 MLAs or which has 100 MPs. Very difficult. But what about a political party which has 3 MLAs? It is easy to bribe 2 MLAs and break this party and merge these 2 MLAs with another political party. Very easy. Because a political party with a deep chest of revenue, of money, can easily do all these things. And then it is the murder of democracy. Look at what happened in Goa. After the assembly elections in Goa, Congress party emerged as the single largest party. But then BJP colluded with, formed a coalition with various smaller political parties and was in a position to form the government. Then Manohar Parrikar was appointed as the chief minister of Goa, and ultimately what happened? Manohar Parrikar passed away. All these smaller political parties, they have supported the BJP on the ground that Manohar Parrikar should be the chief minister of Goa. One such party had 3 MLAs. This party said that now since Manohar Parrikar is no longer alive, we should reconsider, we should have some different arrangement in place. What the BJP did, according to various reports, bribed 2 MLAs from this political party, split this party, brought these 2 MLAs, got them merged with the BJP so that anti-defection law does not apply. This is the murder of democracy. What is the solution to this? The solution is that even if these 2 MLAs, or even if these 2/3 of the MLAs, they feel suffocated in this political party, the best way should be resign from the Legislative Assembly, resign from the Parliament, seek the confidence of the people again, contest the election again, and if the people repose their trust in you, then you can do whatever you want to do. Whether you want to join BJP, you want to join Congress, you want to float another political party, do whatever you want to do. But the mandate that has been given should be respected. So the best solution should be this 2/3 merger clause should be deleted, not required under anti-defection law. Then the third problem area was WHIP. Whip is issued by a political party. If it's a three-line whip, it is coercive in nature, binding on a legislator, and you have to abide by this whip. If you do not, then you will be disqualified under anti-defection law. But what about the freedom of speech and expression of a parliamentarian? Let's say, for example, I'm a member of the parliament. I belong to a party A. This party A tells me that you have to vote against, let's say, a bill X. But I think that this bill X is very important for the growth, development, and prosperity of this country. And I want to vote in favor of this bill. But if I'm voting in favor of this bill, I'm violating the whip issued by the political party, I'm disqualified. Then there has to be a reform. What is the reform? Manish Tiwari, who was a member of the parliament from 2009 to 2014, when he was a private member, that is when he was not a minister, he proposed a private member's bill. Manish Tiwari is still a member of the Lok Sabha, but I'm talking about a period 2009 to 2014. He was a private member, that means he was not a minister before. He presented a private member's bill and said anti-defection law should apply in case of violation of a whip only if in these areas the whip is violated. What am I talking about? Whip should not be binding in all cases and in all scenarios, because members of the parliament should have the freedom of speech and expression. So whip should be binding only in those cases where the stability of the government is under threat, where if you violate the whip issued by the political party, the government may fall. That is why the whip should be binding in only these cases on the passage of no confidence motion, because the stability of the government is under threat, confidence motion, money bill, and vote of thanks of the president and governor's address. Because on these four matters, the stability of the government is under question, under threat, and if you violate the whip issued by the political party, the government may collapse. Then what will happen to your freedom of speech and expression? That means only in case of the stability of the government, only on those matters on which the stability of the government is threatened, the whip should be binding. On all other matters, the whip should not be binding. The legislator should have the freedom of speech and expression. But you may say, why even in these cases whip should be binding? Whip should not be binding at all. Then if I belong to a party A, which has 51 MLAs, then there is a party B, which has 49 MLAs. Party A is in a position to form the government, but it has a wafer thin majority. Two-member majority, only two members more than party B. If I'm from party A and I bring along three other MLAs from my party, so total now we have four. There is a confidence motion. Whip is issued by my party that you have to vote in favor of this confidence motion, because otherwise if we lose, our government will fall. If I violate this whip issued by the political party, that means I'm voting against my party or I'm abstaining from voting. Ultimately what will happen? This party A will collapse and party B will be in a position to form the government. That means it will go back to the same era of political defections, where the stability of the government was threatened by these political defections. That is why whenever the question of the stability of the government is concerned, whip should be binding. On all other matters, the legislator should have a freedom of speech and expression. That is Schedule 10 of the Indian Constitution dealing with anti-defection law.